Good evening. We'll call to order the regular monthly meeting of the City of Helotes Planning and Zoning Commission. It is September the 4th, 7:03 p.m. Ask the commission secretary to call the roll, please.
Rick Michelle,
Here.
Jason Whiteman,
Here.
Ron Haza, Joe Edmond, Richard Hawk, Jeff Wade. Here. Mario Rios. Here.
Okay, and we have Selena Perez, City Secretary, Alex Blue from Council, and Susan, I can never remember that, Susan, I'm sorry, Susan Darst from Assistant City Manager, City Administrator, excuse me. We have as our first item this evening a public hearing to give all interested persons the right to appear and be heard on a request by L&F-1 for a change in zoning from pre-development to single-family residential district for 57.531 acres of newly annexed property located generally on Galm Road. So at the public hearing, if you're here to speak to that, I'd ask you to come forward to the microphone and tell us your name and address. And then you would have 3 minutes to speak to us regarding this item. It's not a time for us to get a dialogue about it, but to hear what you as citizens have to say. So we'll open the public hearing at 7:04. And do we have anyone this evening?
No, Mr. Chairman, no one signed up.
No one signed up. Is there anybody who's clear to speak to that item? This is the number 3, item 3. This is for the third item, the public hearing item on the agenda? Yes, sir. Okay, if you wouldn't mind, come on up and give us your name and address and so forth, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. My name is Frank H. Lutta. My address is 1132 Sunset Boulevard. We own property adjacent to the smaller portion. Property ID 236320. Basically, I would like to ask questions if that's permissible.
Unfortunately, not at this point, it is not. But I would point out that the item is on the agenda for this evening, and so there may be some opportunity for you to learn more about it there, as well as going before City Council, which it will be on the City Council agenda, I presume this month.
Next Thursday.
A week from this Thursday.
Okay, will there be an opportunity to ask questions at that meeting?
There will be an opportunity as a public hearing. Will there be a public hearing?
There's also a public hearing, but the same process
Yeah.
applies. You can't ask any questions. I mean, you can pose the questions, but by law, the commission or the board members cannot answer back.
Which is to say that you could raise concerns, questions, issues.
Okay.
That'd be the time for it. This would be the time for it.
All right, well, basically, can we bring a map up from that letter that was up? I think there was maps attached to that. Well, that's coming up if it's going to come up. Basically, my concern is, at this point, I don't know, what the property is going to be used for, whether it's going to be used as a subdivision or a business. Either way, there are concerns regarding how that property is going to be developed. At this point, we don't know. I don't know if that's going to be discussed here at this meeting or not. If it is going to be a residential subdivision, concerns are, how is that going to be separated from my property? Are fencing or a wall involved? Also, concerns regarding drainage. If that is going to be a subdivision, how is drainage going to affect my property? Because currently there is drainage from that particular tract of land onto my property, as well as drainage from another adjacent property. So not knowing exactly how that property is going to be developed, I can only discuss, two concerns. One being the drainage, and one being how the separation of whatever that property is going to be used for and my property, whether it's going to be fencing or walls or anything like that. Also, if it's going to be a subdivision, what planning or what other considerations have been made regarding traffic flow in and out of that subdivision, if it's going to be a subdivision. None of that information is presented, so I have concerns regarding that as well. There are other major subdivisions in the area, very big subdivisions, which have more than one entrances into their subdivisions. So again, not knowing exactly what's going to be used for or what that property is going to be used for, those are the concerns that I have. So I guess my curiosity is, how are those concerns and my questions going to be answered? How can I find out what that property is going to be used for?
Okay, so thank you for that, and we will hopefully have an opportunity to get into this a little bit from now, so thank you.
All right?
Is there anyone else who cares to speak to this item before us? Okay, we will close the public hearing 7:09. Item 4 is citizens to be heard. I don't believe we have anyone, Selena, signed up in the regular portion of that, so we will skip to the consent agenda, item 5 and 6. This is a little different from how we've presented it in the past. The consent agenda are the two items 5 and 6, that are considered routine by staff and intended to be enacted in one motion without separate discussion of these items unless, at a commissioner's request, if you'd like an item to be removed from the consent agenda and then considered in the regular course of agenda items. So, does anybody care to pull item 5, which is minutes, or item 6, which has to do with the rezoning that we just held the public hearing on? Anybody care to pull items 5 or 6 from the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I recommend we pull out item 6 for discussion and approve the remaining agenda item on consent.
So we can have a motion then on item 5, the only remaining item in the consent agenda, which is the minutes from the 7th August meeting. You've had a chance to review those, so we can take a motion at this time.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, I'll second the motion from Mr. Rios.
I don't think it's a motion to pull it from the agenda, is it?
No, not to
From the
pull it.
consent agenda, so
Okay,
we could
so
just
we
move
just-
on to the minutes.
So, okay, so
Yeah.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do we make a motion to approve that?
No, it's not a motion to just remove it from the consent agenda.
Okay, so the consent agenda, we need no motion on it?
Well, we have a motion, we need a motion for the minutes to be approved, and that's the only item in the consent agenda now.
I will second that motion
What,
to
did you
approve number
make that
5.
motion for the minutes? Okay, so the motion is to approve the minutes as submitted for the August 7, 2018 meeting. All in favor of approving the minutes, please signal aye.
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 Opposed? The minutes are approved. Sign these. Okay, so now we come to item 6 tonight, which is the item regarding the request by LNF1 for a change in zoning from pre-development to single-family residential district for 57.531 acres of newly annexed property located generally on Gallem Road. Susan or Selena, are either of you going to speak to this item on behalf of staff?
Sure, if you would like us to.
Sure, and do we have a representative here from the owner?
I don't believe
Okay.
so.
So if you would like to just introduce it, and then we can handle.
Sure. So this is a pretty standard item. The reason why we are doing this is because our municipal code of ordinances allows for it. To answer Mr. Lara's question, this is a residential property. It will be used for subdivision use. I can't answer too much about the drainage. I do know that all of this, or all of the planning, is done through our Development Services Department. Our city engineer looks at it, our fire department looks at it, building official looks at it. So we will make sure that the subdivision is up to code and meets all of the codes and the regulations. We did have 2 public hearings regarding these 2 tracts of land, and council did approve the annexation. And now it is coming before the commission so that we can actually approve the designation of those 2 parcels of property.
The land has it been platted?
They are existing plats of land, so I believe the owner bought those those
But
tracts
it's going to
of
be
land.
replatted then,
It'll be
right.
replatted,
So
yes, sir.
I asked that because, and again, though we can't get in dialogue about it, as part of the platting process, engineer will review it, say, for example, related to drainage, fire for
For
ingress and
parking,
egress,
yeah.
parking, those sorts of things. So that is all still to come. The city is required by code, once it annexes property within a certain set period of time, to actually apply a permanent
Zoning.
zoning designation. I think it's 3 months or 6 months.
Correct, 180 days.
180 days, so that's partly why this is happening now. But this will go next to city council, who will act on whatever this body recommends. And then down the road, when the owner is ready to actually plat or replat it, there will be another process like this, where they will come and present and respond to questions from this body. So this is not the end of a process, but a beginning of a process. I'd like to open it up to folks up here. Anybody who has comments or questions? Yes, please.
Just a quick question, Selena. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but single-family residential zoning, which is what is proposed, only allows single-family homes and
That
not,
is correct.
not commercial or multifamily
That is
development.
correct.
Okay.
Separate designation for
And- I
multifamily
mean,
or mixed.
this is exactly the same as to what was done, I believe it was in 2015. This is a continuation of that subdivision.
Other comments or questions? So at this time, we can have a motion on this item number 6.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, please, Jeff.
Make a motion to recommend approval of the request by LNF-1 LLC for changing zoning from pre-development district to a single-family residential district, R1, for 57.53 acres of newly annexed property located generally on Gulm Road.
Great.
Mr. Chair,
I'm sorry, just to clarify, since it's 2 properties listed, would you mind reading it out?
Okay,
Thanks,
Gulm
sorry.
Road, more particularly described as a 27.502 tract of land, BCAD property ID 236292, and 30.029 acre tract of land, BCAD property 236320.
Thank you. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second that motion.
So, any discussion of the item, Jeff or Mario? Anyone else? So the motion is to recommend approval of the LNF1 request for change in zoning from pre-development to single-family residential for 57.531 acres of newly annexed property located generally on Gulm Road and more particularly described as 27.502 acre tracts of land. BCAT ID 236292 and 30.029 tract of land, BCAT property number 236320. All in favor of the motion, please signal aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is approved, and so this will be before city council on, what is the date?
Next Thursday, the 13th, I believe?
October 13th,
September 13th.
September, I'm a month off. September 13th, let's not rush this here. September 13th. Okay. Ron?
Let's jump to number 8.
Okay, so there's a request to accommodate an applicant that we switch order of numbers 7 and 8. So we'll go ahead and do that, our final 2 items for this evening. We'll handle item 8 first, which is discussion and action on a request by the Aetna Sign Group for approval of a master sign plan pursuant to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 66, Section 71. That's signs, permits, certificates, and approvals required for master sign plan for Helotes Point Retail Center, a multi-tenant shopping center at 12510 Bandera Road. And I'd ask Selena or Susan, is there anything to present on this one from you guys?
I can go ahead and do the quick background.
Sure. Would you mind
So,
getting up, fast forwarding to the
Yeah.
image itself? Do we have anybody representing applicant here tonight? If we have questions. There we go.
here we go.
Thank you.
Okay, so So this item is before us. It is for a master sign plan for all the wall signs for the new Helotes Point Retail Center. Staff did review it. We are recommending approval of this item. The only thing I wanted to point out on the agenda request form, number 3, the applicant does know that they have to follow Chapter 66 signs, Section 6651. If this master sign plan is approved, any sign that is going to be mounted on that retail center will be approved administratively because the master sign plan will be in place.
Great. All right, so we have the applicant here if there are questions from this body. And I have a couple, so sir, why don't you come up, if you could just put your name and business address on the record for us.
My name is Larry Gottsman. I'm president of Etna Sign Group in 857 Estes Avenue, San Antonio.
Great. Just want to confirm regarding compliance with the code, you all are aware of what the particular stipulations are. These signs that we're looking at here, the tenant signs, they are going to be internally lit, is that correct?
They are, with LEDs.
And there is monument signage on the property? Out front, that is.
There is
There
a-
will- Well, there will be.
Well, there will be, I know
Yeah,
there's not
yeah.
yet, but has that,
That came before P and Z, I want to say about 2-3 months ago, so that was approved separately.
so much
Correct.
for my memory. Okay, great. Great, so that, and that is a multi-tenant sign.
Correct.
Right. Others with comments or questions regarding the proposal in front of us?
Mr. Chair, can we hear a description of the lighting? What do you mean by the lighting? How's that gonna light?
Well, all of our signs these days are lit by LEDs internally.
Is-
Internal.
Okay.
And there are, so what, about 8 or 10 of them proposed, is that right?
They'll have 4 tenants.
4?
4.
Grant, okay. All right. That's it.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That was Jeff. So the motion is to recommend approval of the request by Etna Sign Group for approval of a master sign plan pursuant to the Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 66, Section 71, that signs, permits, certificates, and approvals required master sign plan. Helotes Point Retail Center, a multi-tenant shopping center located at 12510 Bandera Road. All in favor of the motion, please signal aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's approved. It'll go before City Council next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, now, item 7 tonight, backing up now, is discussion and action on the request by CDT Sign Services for approval of a variance to Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 66, Section 51, commercial signs projecting wall and hanging or in or on windows for wall signage for the FedEx office located inside Walmart, 12550 Leslie Road. Anyone representing them this evening? Okay, if we have questions. Selena, did you want to introduce this again, if you wouldn't mind?
Sure. This item is for approval of a variance request for a FedEx sign that will be mounted on the exterior wall of the Walmart. The reason why this is coming before the commission is because code allows for a maximum of 2 wall signs, and as we know, Walmart exceeds the 2 wall signs. They also have a Subway sign that's out there. So that is why this item is coming before the commission to request a variance. Staff is recommending approval of this item. We feel that the sign is small. And the Walmart store and the Subway restaurant did come before City Council, and they also requested a variance, which was approved. And we included in your packet the backup documentation of the City Council minutes for when Walmart was approved and for when Subway was approved.
Great, I appreciate that. I obviously can't remember 2 months ago, so 7 years wasn't
This
gonna
is
happen.
several years ago, so yes. Basically, they're just going through the same process.
Yep. Are there other businesses inside the Walmart that have wall signage?
There's an optometrist in there, but I don't believe they have an exterior wall sign. No, I think Subway's the only, yeah, I think Subway is the only other business.
And there is a multi-tenant sign over there, is there not? Or is it across the street at the other retail center?
It's across the street.
Yeah,
Across the street?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think that, yeah. I
So
don't
there's no other exterior signage for the Subway?
No, they just have one.
The
The
one on
rest,
the
the
wall.
rest of the signage belongs to Walmart.
Happy to open it up to questions. We do have a representative of the applicant if people have questions.
I have a couple questions.
Yep. And if you would put your name and business address on the record for us, please.
Hi, my name's Erica Talamontes at 2548 MacArthur View in San Antonio.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jeff.
Actually, my main question is just red and orange?
Red and, no, white and orange.
White and orange?
White and orange, yes. The Fed is in white, the EX is in orange, and the office is in white. And it'll be internally lit with LEDs as well.
And it will be internally lit.
Correct.
Ever used any alternate colors?
No, sir, these are their new updated colors. For all FedEx offices, they're all going white and orange. It is a part of their brand.
Concerns about that? Just the orange? Yeah. Where is this on the building? How would we describe?
Right smack dab in the middle.
It's actually to the left.
Yeah, it is between that section of the home and the grocery side, the middle
So
section.
when you're standing looking at it, that would be which way?
The left, right next to outdoor living.
Okay,
There's-
closer to Bandera Road.
Correct. There's the, where the plants and stuff are, and then right to the right of that, it'll be up on that wall.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
what are the two blue and white, two blue and a red thing there? Are they, what are we looking at under the sign?
Those are pools.
Oh, they're pool, okay. On mine, I just couldn't make out, what is that?
They're displaying pools.
I didn't know what that was either.
I thought maybe it was a drop box or something.
Pools.
Great. And that actually does raise the last point. Are there envisioned drop-off boxes associated with the business? And if so, does that need approval? Do those need approvals?
I do not know. I can't answer that at this time.
I don't believe there's any drop-off boxes. The only exterior, anything that FedEx would have would be this sign, and as she stated before, there is no multi-tenant signage,
Right.
so they would only be able to display on the building.
Councilman Blue, do you recall if in fact a drop box is needed, is that something that needs to come before either this body or staff handle that?
I wouldn't think so, because it's not a sign, so it would only be just like a mailbox kind of thing outside. It would surprise me if they would have that, however, because the Walmart is 24 hours, so I'm sure they would have it indoors. But it's not a part of what they're requesting,
Right.
so.
Yep.
It's
Jason.
kind of a broad question, and just throwing this out there more to internal deliberation, but why would this, and I understand the notion to grant a variance based more or less on the code requirements we have for multi-tenant shopping centers with a master sign plan. I mean, why wouldn't that be implemented here? You know, I know this is the only example we have in Helotes, but, you know, I'm sure you're aware that there are many other big box stores with multi-tenants. That's kind of a new thing that, you know, they have a credit union or a bank or a, you know, pizza joint or whatever it is inside. And I'm seeing that more and more. H-E-B, I think, has several, you know, minute clinics and that
Yes.
kind of thing. And so, I mean, is that something we might want to look at? I mean, I know it's kind of retroactive in their case, but.
Yeah, I think that's something that, I mean, Councilman Blue could represent that to council as something that perhaps that merits consideration for future development. I think this, in many cases, was a very unique situation several years ago. But, you know, if there's if there are the possibility of these type of developments down the road, then that type of master sign planning could help everyone in terms of efficiencies, in terms of sort of considering it as a unit. I don't know if you have recollection of the process of, you were on council, Alex, right? Yes. Been that long. The process why it didn't go through a master sign
When
plan.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. When the Walmart first came to the city, there was a single tenant property. The Subway came subsequently, and that's why when Walmart came, they only had a single tenant. And of course, as a single tenant, you're not allowed a multi-tenant monument sign, right? So they were restricted in size. Because the Walmart faces two roads, they were granted two signs, and you may recall that one is over there near Business Parkway, over across the street from the elementary school, and the other monument sign is over there in between the garden center and Bandera Road. You'll also note that both of them are the same size. They requested larger signs and were denied the larger sign over by Bandera Road and granted the bigger one over off of Leslie Road. The wall signage was permitted because of the size of the building. The signage didn't, they were being very, actually very cooperative, because this Walmart has a lot less signage than many of them do, and they really wanted to be here, so they made a lot of concessions with subduing the size and the color scheme of all the signage. And so that's why they were granted the extra ones, given the size of the building. Later, Subway came, and as you may know, if you go in on the right-hand side as you're facing the building, right in there by the produce section is where you'll find the Subway. Interestingly enough, the FedEx office is actually not far from there, but they couldn't put the sign next to it. That's why it's on the opposite entrance. It's over there closer to the garden center, really. But I think they just wanted a presence on there, and as you can see, it's really kind of small still compared to that. It's 20 inches tall and about 11 feet wide, but in proportion to the building, it's actually a relatively small sign. But that's kind of why that is the case. They came to the city, and master sign plans are something you come to when you have a multi-tenant scenario. So they weren't eligible for a master sign plan in that way unless they followed like what CVS did when they came through. CVS came, but their entire development was outside of the code. They didn't follow any of the code on their development. They came in with a special request. I wasn't on council at that time. And the entire building, the heights, the windows, the signage, and everything was part of one thing. That's why anytime they want to change a sign, they have to go back to council. Not to P&Z, just they have to go straight to council, even to change the color code on any sign that they may do. Walmart followed the code with the exception of the number of signs that they had. And that's kind of why they didn't go with the multi-tenant. They didn't qualify for it. Honestly, they didn't want anything but their own name on those monument signs. So, did that answer your question, sir?
Thank you. Other comments or questions, or a motion would be appropriate?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve. Motion to approve a request by CD Sign Services for approval of variance to Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 66 Signs, Section 6651, Commercial Signs, projecting wall and hanging or in or on windows, authorizing wall signage for a FedEx office located inside Walmart at 12550 Leslie Road, Helotes, Texas, 78023, more particularly described as BCAD property, ID number 1175530.
And recommend approval?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is there a second for that?
I'll second it.
Ron, is there further discussion, any discussion on the motion? Mario? Ron? Anyone else?
Good.
Okay, so the motion is to recommend approval of the request by CDT Sign Services for variance to Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 66, Section 51, authorizing wall signage for a FedEx office located inside the Walmart at 12550 Leslie Road. All in favor, please signal aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved, and this will go before City Council next week on the, what was the 13th? 13th. Okay, that brings us to the conclusion of this evening's agenda. Do we have a motion to go out, Ron?
Mr. Chairman, may I make a motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signal aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting stands adjourned at 7:33.